Hello dear learners. In this today's video you will come to know about what is NGOs, how NGOs they work, what is the structure of an NGO. Dear learners, as globalization and international trade impact societies, non-governmental organizations they have become increasingly influential in world affairs. They are consulted by government as well as international organizations like United Nations, which have created associative status for them. There are now tens of thousands of non-governmental organizations in the world operating in most countries. These organizations are not directly affiliated with any national government but often have a significant impact on the social, economic and political activity of the country or religion or region involved. The World Bank has provided an extensive definition of NGOs. The World Bank defines them as private organizations that pursue activities to relieve suffering. It's promote the interest of the poor, protect the environment, provide basic social services, or undertake community development. In wider usage, the term NGO can be applied to any non-profit organization which is independent from government. NGOs are typically value-based organizations which depend in whole or in part on charitable donations and voluntary service. Although the NGO sector has become increasingly personalized over the last 2 decades, principles of altruism and volunteerism remain key defining characteristics. Dear learners, organizations which are independent of government involvement are known as non-governmental organizations or NGOs or non-government organizations. NGOs are a subgroup of organizations founded by citizens, which include clubs and associations which provide services to its members and others. And they are usually non-profit organizations. Many NGOs are activities in humanitarian or the social sciences. Surveys indicate that NGOs they have a high degree of public trust, which can make them a useful proxy for the concern of society and stakeholders. However, NGOs can also be lobby group for corporations, such as the World Economic Forum. According to NGO.org, the non-governmental organization associated with the United Nations, an NGO is any non-profit voluntary citizens group which is organized on a local, national or international level. Task oriented and driven by people with a common interest, NGOs they perform a variety of service and humanitarian functions, bring citizens' concern to government, they advocate and monitor policies and encourage political participations through provision of information. Dear learners, let's have a look on the history of NGOs. International non-governmental organizations they date back at least 18th century, and there were an estimated 1083 NGOs by 1914. International NGOs they were important to the anti-slavery and women suffrage movement and peaked at the time of 1932-34 World Disarmament Conference. The term became popular with the 1945 founding of the United Nations in 1945. Article 71, Chapter 10 of its charter stipulated consultative status for organizations which are neither government nor member state. An international NGO was first defined in Resolution 288, Part 10 of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, on February 27, 1950 as any international organization that is not founded by an international treaty. The rapid development of the non-governmental sector occurred in Western countries as a result of the restructuring of the welfare state. Globalization of that process occurred after the fall of the communist system and was an important part of the Washington Consensus. 20th century globalization they increased the importance of NGO. International treaties and organizations such as the World Trade Organization focused on capitalist interest. To To counterbalance this trend, NGOs emphasize humanitarian issues, development aid, and sustainable development. An example is the World Social Forum, a rival convention of the World Economic Forum held each January in Davos, Switzerland. The fifth World Social Forum in Porto Alegre, Brazil, in January 2005 was attended by representatives of more than 1,000 NGOs. The 1992 Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, attended by about 2,400 representatives, was the first to demonstrate the power of international NGOs in environmental issues and sustainable development. Transnational NGOs networking has become extensive. Dear learners, let's have a look on the categories of NGO. The term NGO is very broad and encompasses many different types of organizations. In the field of development, NGO they range from large charities such as CARE, Oxen, and World Vision to community-based self-help groups in the South. They also include research institutes, churches, professional associations, and lobby groups. The World Bank tends to interact with the two main categories of the NGO: operational NGOs, whose primary purpose is the design and implementation of development-related projects. 2. Advocacy NGOs, whose primary purpose is to defend or promote a specific cause and who seek to influence the policies and practices of the bank. There are different typologies of the NGO. Individual, operational NGOs vary enormously according to their purpose, philosophy, sectoral expertise, and scope of activities. A number of different NGOs typologies they exist. For example, NGOs have been classified according to whether they are more relief or development oriented. 2. Whether they are religious or secular, whether they stress service delivery or participation, and whether they are more public or private oriented. NGOs they may be classified by their orientation and level of operation. By way of operation, charities often a top-down effort with little participation or input from beneficiaries. They include NGOs directed at meeting the needs of disadvantaged people and group. Service. They include NGOs which provide healthcare, like including family planning and education. Participation NGO, like self-help projects with local involvement in the form of money, tools, land, material, or maybe the labor. Empowerment NGOs, they aim to help poor people to understand the social, political, and economic factors affecting their lives and to increase awareness of their power to control their lives with maximum involvement by the beneficiaries. The NGOs are facilitators. By way of level of operations, they can be divided into community-based NGOs, popularly known as CBOs, are popular initiative which can raise the consciousness of the urban poor, helping them understand their rights to services and provide such services. Citywide organization, they include the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, coalitions of business, ethnic or educational groups, and community organizations. State NGOs, they include state level organizations, associations, and groups. Some state NGOs, they are guided by national and international NGOs. National level NGOs, they include organizations like YMCA, YWCA, professional associations, and similar kind of the groups. Some have state or city branches and assist local NGOs. International NGOs, they range from secular agencies such as the Save the Children to religious groups. They may fund local NGOs, institutions, and projects and implement projects. Similar terms, they include third sector organizations. We call them TSO, non-profit organization, NPO, volunteer organization, VO, civil society organization, CSO, grassroots organization, GO, social movement organization, SMO, private voluntary organization, PVO, self-help organization, SHO, and non-state actors, NSAs. In Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, and other Romance language, the synonym abbreviation ONG is in use. For example, organization non-governmental in French. Now, let's have a look on what are the activities which are being undertaken by the NGO. The World Bank classify NGO activity as operational and advocacy. NGOs, they act as implementers, catalysts, and partners. They mobilize the resources to provide goods and services to people who have been affected by a natural disaster. They drive change and partner with other organizations to tackle problems and address human needs. NGOs, they vary by method. Some are primarily advocacy groups, and others they conduct programs and activities. Oxfam, concerned with poverty alleviation, may provide needy people with the equipment and skills to obtain food and drinking water. The Forum for Fact-Finding, Documentation and Advocacy, FFDA, they helps provide legal assistance to victims of human rights abuses. The Afghanistan Information Management Service, they provide specialized technical products and services to support development activities implemented on the ground by the other organizations. Management techniques are crucial to project success. In case of operational NGOs seek to achieve small-scale change directly through projects, mobilizing financial resources, materials, and volunteers to create local programs. They hold large-scale fundraising events and may apply to governments and organizations for grants or contracts to raise money for projects. Operational NGOs, they often have a hierarchical structure. Their headquarters are staffed by professionals who plan projects, create budgets, keep accounts, and report to and communicate with operational field workers on projects. They are most often associated with the delivery of services or environmental issues, emergency relief, and public welfare. Operational NGO may be subdivided into relief or development organizations, service delivery or participatory, religious or secular, and public or private. Although operational NGOs may be community-based, many are national or international. The defining activity of an operational NGO is the implementation of projects. Campaigning NGOs, they seek to achieve large-scale change promoted indirectly through the influence of the political system. They require an active, efficient group of professional members who can keep supporters informed and motivated. Campaigning NGOs, they must plan and host demonstrators and events which will attract media. They are defining activities. Campaigning NGOs, they often deal with issues related to human rights, women's rights, and children's rights, and their primary purpose is to defend or promote a special cause. Combined category. The NGOs, they might conduct both activities. Operational NGOs, they will use campaigning techniques if they face issues in the field which could be remedied by policy change, and campaigning NGOs such as human rights organizations often have programs which assist individual victims for whom they are trying to advocate. Public relation non-governmental organizations need healthy public relations to meet their goals and use sophisticated public relation campaigns to raise funds and deal with governments. Interest groups may be politically important, influencing social and political outcomes. A code of ethics was established in 2002 by the World Association of Non-Governmental Organizations. There is a great variety of ways in which NGOs are structured. The classic model is of a membership organization, coordinated in a geographically defined hierarchy. Individual people, they work in local groups, which coordinate in provinces, and then have a headquarters in the capital city of the country as a whole. Such countrywide organizations are called national NGOs. Frequently, the national NGOs combine in an international NGO or INGO, which may consist of regional groups or countries and be kept by a global body. Not all the level of the hierarchy need exist. Many countries are too small to have provincial structures, Smaller specialist NGOs may simply enroll individual member at national level without having any local branches. Occasionally, individuals are enrolled at the international level. On the other hand, in large organizations, the international level often seems relatively remote and attracts little attention. Even among the NGOs own member, Indian non-governmental organizations, these can be set up under various Indian laws. The different legal entities under which civil society organization they can register themselves. These are: 1. Registered societies. Society Registration Act 1860 is a central act for registering non-for-profit organization. Almost all the states in India have adopted, with the modification, if any, the central act for creating state-level authorities for registering various types of non-for-profit entities. According to the act, any 7 person who subscribe to the memorandum of association can register a society. The memorandum should include the name of society, its objectives, names, addresses, and occupations of the members subscribing to it, as well as the first governing body to be constituted on registration. Second is trust, public trust. These can be created for public charitable purposes. There is no all India level act for setting up public charitable trust. Some of the states in India have enacted the Public Charitable Trust Act, which most states in India do not have a, trust act. An NGO can be created only under a public trust act. Like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan have independent state level public trust acts. States like West Bengal, Jharkhand and Bihar do not have any act to register a public trust. A trust can be registered in one state, but the same has the scope to operate in any number of states. In states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, all organizations that are registered as society are by default also registered as public trust under Bombay Public Trust Act 1950. Private trust. A private trust created under and governed by the Indian Trust Act of 1882 aims at managing assigned trust properties for private or religious purpose. A private trust does not enjoy the privileges and tax benefits that are available for the public trust or NGO. Non-profit companies conferring of corporate personalities to associations that promote cultural and charitable objectives, but exempting them from some cumbersome requirements which are essentials for regulation of business bodies but are difficult for compliance by non-profit companies, are the noteworthy features that are provided under the Companies Act 2013. According to Section 25, Part 1, Companies Act 1956, where it is proved to the satisfaction of the central government that an association is about to be formed as a limited company for promoting commerce, art, science, religion, charity, or any other useful objectives, intends to apply its profits, if any, or other income in promoting its objectives, and to prohibit the payment of any dividend to its members. The central government may, by license, direct the association may be registered as a company with limited liability without addition to its name the word limited or the word private limited. Now, the types of NGOs on the basis of use. Cooperative societies. In India, cooperative societies are regarded as instrument to mobilize and aggregate community efforts to eliminate layers of middlemen in any product or service supply chain, hence resulting in greater benefit sharing for the grassroots, farmers, workers or artisans. The Cooperative Credit Societies Act 1904 enabled formation of cooperatives for supplying to farmers cheap and credit and protect them from exploitation in the hands of moneylenders. The Cooperative Act 1912 expanded the sphere of cooperation and provided for supervision by central organization. Multi-state cooperative societies the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act 2002, which substitute the earlier statutes of 1984, facilitates the incorporation of societies, cooperative societies, those objectives and functions spread over the several states. The Act provides for formation of both primary, with both individual and institutional members, and federal cooperatives with only institutional membership. Any application for the registration of a multi-state cooperative society, of which all the members are individuals, should be signed by at least 50% from each of the states concerned. In case of a society of which members are cooperative societies, it should be signed by duly authorized representative of at least 5 such societies registered in different states. Trade union. Trade union means any combination, whether temporary or permanent, formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations between workmen and employers, or between workmen and workmen, or between employers and employers, or for imposing restrictive condition on the conduct of any trade or business, and includes any federation of 2 or more trade unions. Religious bodies are frequently registered as NGOs. Working structure of any NGO. What does a run of the NGO's authoritative structure resemble? What kind of staff individual work in an NGO, and what are their duties? The wide assortment and unpredictability dealing with various topics at various levels, or focusing on various crowds, make it very hard to make a non-exclusive blueprint of a hierarchical structure. All in all, a regular NGO authoritative structure is in actuality an aspect of the NGO's bylaws, and explicit highlights and subtleties are expressly delineated in the bylaws. We have the top management. In top administration of an NGO comprises of 3 elements: the board of directors, the general assembly, and the executive director part. Contingent upon the NGO's bylaws, individuals from the general assembly can likewise partake in the gathering as a substitute, typically conceding to the executive director to make their choice when required. Staff members, they are the individuals from NGOs, are liable for everyday working and executing of its projects and ventures. And they report to the executive director, who by and large is answerable for the NGO's exercises. Staff individuals from a NGO fall into 3 gatherings liable for exercises identified with the organization, exposure, programs, and ventures. Communication and catering exercises are the obligations of a staff part, the degree of a supervisor. This too might be helped by other staff individual, for example, a public relation assistant, a publication assistant, or a BAB or social media assistant. The public relation colleague works intimately with both the financial assistant and membership coordinator on one hand, and the program manager on the others, to broadcast its exercises and construct a brand name for the NGO. Additionally, the distributions collaborator should work with the advertising and BEV or online media right hand, so as to ensure the NGO's distributions are spread generally and in an opportune way. Now, program and venture exercises of NGO are driven by the director. This is obviously the greatest aspects of NGO's exercises, and structures its auxiliary center. A program manager might be helped by a few project assistants, training assistants, and different assistants, contingent upon the number and size of the activities being executed. Momentary outside advisors who offer explicit types of assistance for activities, or field staff who are employed to execute ventures in the objective network additionally fall under this segment. The staff, positions, and duties they plot above are not obviously fixed. NGOs can have other staff individuals as well as or shared related obligations can be held by one individual. For instance, related duties of membership coordination and public relations can be taken care of by a similar staff in situations where a NGO is simply beginning or during the time of spent creating. This combination will especially be valid where one staff part might be taking care of the multiple and related duties. Staff individuals, their jobs, obligations, and generally speaking, NGO structures are concretized by remembering them for the NGO's bylaws, and bylaws are required for the lawful enlistment of an NGO and can be added to and changed with the endorsement of the board of directors and the General Assembly. The hierarchical structure itself may change after some time, contingent upon how the projects and ventures are and new ones started. NGOs' strengths and weakness will be there. Dear learner, in the end, we shall have a look on the strengths and the weaknesses of NGO because the nature and the quality of individual NGOs vary greatly. It is extremely difficult to make generalization about the sector as a whole. Despite this diversity, some specific strengths generally associated with the NGO sector, they include like maybe the strong grassroots link, like field-based development, expertise, the ability to innovate and adapt, and a process-oriented approach to development, participatory methodologies and tools, and long-term commitment and emphasis on sustainability and on the cost effectiveness. The most commonly identified weaknesses of this sector, they include limited financial and management expertise, and they are limited institutional capacities, low level of, we can say, the self-sustainability, and they lack of inter-organizational communication and coordination. Even they are small-scale intervention, they lack understanding of the broader social or economic context. So dear learner, in this today's topic, we have discussed in detail about the various NGOs and how they are working, what are their different structures, and what are their strengths. And dear learners, so to sum up this today's topic, we can say that NGOs, they are some smaller units, but they play an important role. We have different types of NGOs. We have discussed them in detail. How we can register an NGO, what are the various rules, regulations at international level and at national level. And in the last part of today's topic, we have discussed about the strengths and the weaknesses of NGOs. We can say these are very powerful tool and they can play a very good role in the development. Thank you very much.